The movie begins with a man named Hutch, seated under the harsh lights of an FBI interrogation room. The agents press him about his real identity, and that single question sends the narrative backward to reveal who he truly is. Hutch is not just an ordinary man. He is a professional assassin. His life is an endless cycle of missions, contracts, violence, and bloodshed. Yet living this way has pushed him further and further away from his family. His wife, Becca, sets the dinner table every evening hoping he'll join, but most nights he never makes it home on time. One evening, she almost writes a message to him saying that they needed to talk, but she deletes it before sending. On a rare day off, Hutch finally notices how distant he has grown from those he loves. His kids leave for school, Becca heads to her office, and before she goes, she reminds him that summer vacation is approaching.
As a family, yeah.
He responds that they should take a trip together as a family, and he promises to make the arrangements. At the same time, he admits he has one more assignment to deal with first. Becca wants to say more, but she swallows her words. Hutch takes on the assignment, which should have been a straightforward theft. Instead, it drags on much longer than planned. His handler, Barber, later criticizes the delay, pointing out that it was only supposed to be a simple grab. Hutch defends himself by explaining that he first had to eliminate a group in the elevator to get their access card, and after that, he was ambushed by armed rivals waiting outside. Barber comments that he expected some competition for the prize, but Hutch clarifies that it wasn't just one rival group. There were three. After dispatching the gunman, he even had to cut through a Brazilian crew swinging machetes. Hutch overcame them all on his own. Barber, unimpressed, brushes it aside and reminds Hutch that at least the job was complete. He informs Hutch that the result shaves $800,000 off his enormous $30 million debt. The debt, it turns out, comes from a time when Hutch destroyed the fortune of a Russian gangster, and he has been working ever since to pay it back. Hutch says he needs a pause from all this, but Barber cautions him that his trade is built into who he is, something no man can escape. That thought lingers with Hutch until he recalls an advertisement he once noticed in the middle of a fight. It was for an amusement park called Plumberville. Excited, he shows his family a promotional film of the place, filled with massive rides and twisting water slides. He insists it has something for everyone, even for their grandfather. The children, however, lose enthusiasm at the mention of bringing along Grandpa. Hutch explains that the park is special to him. It was the only amusement park he ever visited as a boy, taken there by his own father, and he wants to share the same experience with his whole family at least once. This time, they all agree. They pick up Hutch's father, David, who puts out his cigar before stepping into the car. Together, the family sets off, laughing and singing on the road. At Plumberville, disappointment strikes when they discover the water park is closed that day.
Closed, sorry.
What?
24 hours, here's a coupon for...
Instead, they're handed vouchers for hot dogs. While waiting for food, Hutch remembers how he and his brother Harry used to sit at that very stand when they were younger. Now, in the same spot sits the county sheriff who glares at him, clearly unfriendly. Hutch avoids confrontation, collects his food, and rejoins his family.
Coupon for the arcade.
Not long after, they enter the arcade. Hutch's son, Brady, racks up a pile of tickets and generously offers them to some nearby girls. This harmless gesture angers one of the girls' boyfriends, who demands that Brady back down and apologize, even though he has done nothing wrong. To escalate matters further, the boy tears apart the toy prize belonging to Sammy, Hutch's young daughter. Brady refuses to back off, sparking a fight. The arcade manager intervenes. Hutch attempts to calm things, and Becca urges the family to leave.
Mom, I didn't do shit. This guy did all of it. Let's go.
This is your wife right now.
As they start to walk away, however, the manager slaps Sammy across the head. That single act flips a switch in Hutch. He turns back into the arcade and unleashes his hidden nature, overwhelming everyone who dares to stand against him. One after another, he beats them down until finally the manager himself takes a humiliating slap to the head. The aftermath is chaotic. The authorities detain Hutch and his family for questioning. While they wait, Brady looks at his father with admiration and tells him that what he did was incredible. Hutch, on the other hand, can only see it as another burden. a reminder of the life he cannot put away. Not long after the arcade incident, the sheriff summoned Hutch into his office. When Hutch walked in, he discovered someone else occupying the sheriff's chair, a man named Wyatt. Wyatt effectively ran the entire town, and the boy from the arcade turned out to be his son. During the scuffle, Brady had injured that boy's pitching arm. Hutch remained composed. He told Wyatt that one of the men had struck his daughter, and any father in his position would have reacted the same way. Wyatt seemed to accept the explanation and allowed Hutch to leave. Still, the sheriff quietly instructed his deputies to handle things differently. Back at the hotel, Becca finally let her frustration spill out. She accused Hutch of revealing his dangerous side in front of everyone and warned him that their son was beginning to mimic that same aggression. Suspicious of him, she asked about his work bag, thinking he had smuggled something lethal into their family trip. When she opened it, however, what she found was only a bottle of wine, the very same brand they had shared the night they first met. The discovery softened her anger. She embraced him, confessing that from the very beginning she had known there was a darker side to him, because he had been covered in blood the first time she laid eyes on him.
Where'd you find that?
I knew you were dangerous.
The following day unfolded more peacefully as the family played games together, while David took some time at his old lodge. Hutch then spotted a police officer discreetly taking photographs of them. Later, when they boarded a duck boat tour, that same officer appeared again, this time flanked by a small gang. Hutch moved quickly, ushering Becca and the kids onto another boat. Claiming an upset stomach, he boarded a different vessel alone. The officer shadowed him, climbing into the same boat. With other tourists filling the seats, the men had to maintain appearances. Once the ride began, the officer leaned toward Hutch and reminded him that he had been told to leave town. Then, without warning, the gang attacked. Violence erupted in the middle of the moving boat, though the tourists, distracted by headphones and narration, remained oblivious. During the fight, Hutch's finger was sliced clean off with a knife and fell into the water, where a fish swallowed it whole. Moments later, they hurled Hutch from the boat, but Hutch would not stay down. He clawed his way back on board and, driven by fury, demolished every assailant in brutal fashion.
Boss.
He left the officer with his face shattered. After escaping, Hutch contacted his brother Harry. He explained that he had come back to Plummerville, but the place was far more hostile than he remembered. Harry clarified why. The town was built on an old trade route. Their father hadn't brought them there years ago just for leisure. It had been for a mission. On top of that, the local police were working in league with a criminal syndicate. Meanwhile, Wyatt was engaged with the sheriff in preparing a shipment. He warned the sheriff to stay quiet and avoid stirring trouble. However, the sheriff soon received news from one of his officers. This stranger, Hutch, wasn't a harmless visitor. Sensing the change, Hutch rang his handler, Barber, to ask about Plummerville. Barber revealed the truth. The town was under the rule of a woman named Lendina. She was notorious for her merciless nature. Anyone who cost her money never survived. Plummerville was the heart of her operation. Barber urged Hutch to walk away before things escalated beyond control. At the same time, Wyatt received his own call from Lendina. His intention had been to complete the shipment and then sever ties with her, since its delivery meant his family's debt would finally be cleared. Lendina had no intention of letting him go. To her, the debt was endless. She rang the sheriff directly and gave him a chilling instruction. Remind Wyatt who was truly in charge. She demanded he deliver something Wyatt loved most. Following her orders, the sheriff seized Wyatt's son, Max, with plans to hand the boy over to Lendina herself. Before the sheriff could complete his plan, Hutch arrived. He ignited a flame, letting it burn close to the gasoline he had spilled, and warned the sheriff that if anyone touched his family, or if the shipment was damaged, the entire operation would go up in smoke. He reminded the sheriff that even Lendina would not spare him if word came that her cargo was destroyed. Hutch promised that as long as his family remained unharmed, he would stay quiet. The sheriff resisted at first, but the danger was too obvious to ignore. He reluctantly agreed to stand down. As Hutch turned to leave, his gaze landed on Max. The boy's eyes pleaded silently for help. Hutch tore himself away, forced himself into the car, and began to drive off. A moment later, he slammed the vehicle to a stop. He could not abandon the boy. Hutch spun the car around, charged back in, and launched into combat with the sheriff's men. Gunfire cracked through the room. Stray rounds struck a lamp, its sparks dropping onto the puddles of gasoline. Flames roared to life, quickly reaching a stash of explosives. The detonation ripped apart the building, obliterating the shipment in seconds. News rushed back to Lendina. Her valuable cargo, gone. Her fury boiled over the moment she learned the destruction was the work of a man staying in her town with his family. The sheriff called her as well, urging her to bring every soldier she had. Hutch regrouped with his family at David's old lodge. Max and Brady, after all the tension between them, exchanged a handshake at last. But Becca wasn't reassured. She reminded Hutch of his promises, accusing him of failing to keep them. Hutch admitted that events had slipped from his control and begged her to take the children away. She refused. He was her husband, the father of their kids, and she trusted him to put things right. Determined, Hutch sought out Wyatt. Wyatt lashed out immediately, convinced Hutch had torched the entire shipment. Hutch fought him off, steadied him, and explained. Max had been saved by Hutch's hand, not rescued by chance. The truth sank in. Wyatt listened, then revealed more. Lendina had been the one who murdered his father, and her cruelty knew no limit. She was already coming for them, with an army at her back. Wyatt opened his armory and showed Hutch the collection of weapons he had been keeping hidden. Together, they transformed the water park into a stronghold, fortified, rigged, and readied for war. Every ride, every attraction became part of their defense. It wasn't long before help arrived. Harry stepped into Plummerville, ready to fight beside his brother. Hutch also freed a caged wolf dog, unleashing it into the grounds as another unpredictable weapon against the invaders. They laid traps everywhere, bombs, ambushes, every deadly surprise that could buy them an edge. Meanwhile, Lendina's convoy of soldiers rolled into town. Passing near the lodge, she ordered her men to wipe out everyone inside. Hutch's family was there together, unaware of the danger closing in. Becca noticed a dart gun among the scattered gear. She pressed it into Brady's hands, telling her son to stay strong, then slipped out quietly to take part in the fight herself. The first man to confront Hutch at the battleground was the sheriff. He announced that the town would now belong to him rather than Wyatt, and demanded that both Hutch and Wyatt surrender their weapons and follow him. They stood defiant. With no submission offered, the sheriff turned to walk away. Before he could take control, Lendina ordered his execution. Her soldiers cut him down on the spot. With that, the battle began. Wyatt triggered the traps he had prepared, while Hutch turned the carnival rides and attractions into deadly weapons. Explosions thundered, bursts of gunfire echoed through the park, and chaos swallowed the grounds. Hutch stormed into the mirror maze, where soldiers floundered, unable to tell reflections from reality. He laced the hall with explosives, striking at men lost in the glass. Wyatt lured a group of soldiers into the ball pit, where hidden landmines had been planted. The ground erupted beneath them, but in the exchange, Wyatt was struck in the leg. As enemy fighters closed in to finish him, another trap went off, cutting them down before they could deliver the final blow. Elsewhere in the chaos, Hutch sent an opponent tumbling down a slick water slide that ended in death. David, Hutch's father, opened fire with a machine gun, his shots carving a path through the soldiers with brutal efficiency. Near the lodge, another wave of Lendina's reinforcements arrived, and Harry stepped forward to meet them head-on. When the dust settled, only Lendina's top fighter remained. He and Harry clashed in a fierce duel, sword against blade, gun against steel. Harry broke through both, shattering the man's weapons before cutting him down for good. Inside the lodge, a lone soldier slipped past the defenses, but Brady stood his ground. Using everything he had learned, Hutch's son put the intruder down. Harry caught sight of it and gave the boy a proud nod, telling him his father would have approved.
Your father be proud of you, Brady.
At last, Hutch came face to face with Lendina herself. She stepped forward, her presence commanding, and sent two of her warriors against him. They overwhelmed Hutch, driving him to the edge. Lendina declared that he was about to lose everything and commanded her fighters to end him. Before the killing blow could land, gunfire cracked in the distance.
Take him out.
Wyatt, bleeding but unbroken, had raised his weapon. His bullets felled both of Lendina's champions. Furious, Lendina whipped a knife across the air and struck Wyatt down, leaving him gravely wounded. She advanced toward Hutch to finish what she had begun. But Becca arrived in that moment. She raised the dart gun they had found earlier and fired true. The dart buried itself in Lendina's eye. The crime lord staggered, then collapsed. Her reign finally ended. More soldiers poured in to avenge her. David triggered the final wave of explosives, turning the entire amusement park into a firestorm. As fire and shock waves consumed the grounds, Hutch and Becca leapt together into the pool, vanishing beneath the water. There, surrounded by the muffled roar of destruction, Becca pulled him close and kissed him. The story then circled back to the beginning. Hutch and Becca seated in the FBI interrogation room. Just as the questioning would have turned severe, a phone rang. Orders from above came through the line. The agents stopped, listened, and released the couple without a word of protest. And with that, the movie ends.
After this vacation.
Let us know in the comments how you liked the explanation. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.